Hello my friends and welcome. Let's start this video from the awesome news coming from the front lines. Let's zoom into Dnipropetrovsk direction, where Ukrainian army has liberated at least 2 of the villages and put 2 more in a gray zone. So Novoselivka, that's the biggest one, it was liberated. And Voronezh plus Yanvarsky are under the question. We have the update about it from the deep state military map, but not only from that source. However, it's kind of rare that deep state shows the actual data. Here it is an exemption because the information went even to the Russian side. And here is the Mikehouse analysis. You may see that Novoselivka, yes, liberated, Horoshe and Voronezh is partially under Ukrainian control. This counterattack operation for Ukraine was kind of risky because of the limited supply routes in this region, so Velika Mikhailovka was the main hub where Ukraine accumulated reinforcements. And of course, with the help of the drones, also aviation strikes, Ukraine managed to propel forward, pushing Russians out closer to Donetsk Oblast. And the border with Donetsk, well, it is over here, very close as you might see. And just 1 year ago, Russians got this success penetrating into Dnipropetrovsk region, but Ukraine now takes initiative because Russia is in lack of supplies. The supply crisis for the Russian army is absolutely elsewhere. And here why this counterattack of Ukraine is important, because Ukraine took control over the settlement which is located on the other shore of this Vovcha river. Vovcha is not a narrow one, so after all it's an obstacle, and Russians hadn't managed to cross this river. Well, Ukraine now has this advantage. Ukraine potentially may create a bridgehead to propel forward. And I'm sure that Sichneva and Voronezh finally, those villages are going to be liberated, and who knows, maybe Ukraine has some of the guts to propel towards Maliivka village. I believe that it might happen, but again the issue goes with supply roads. They're very narrow here, they're mostly field roads. Well, for the summertime, I guess it's not a huge issue, especially right now that the weather is kind of dry. So if we use the interactive map presented to us by Micro73 analysis, you may see that Ukraine counterattacks in 3 of the areas recently. All of those areas are in Dnipropetrovsk direction, so the situation on the front line is already changing in Ukrainian favor. Just the day before yesterday, there was a Ukrainian success in Stepova and close to Zlagada. I already told you about Novoselivka and Voronezh, and Ukraine performs one more counterattack not far away from Tolstoy village near Zeleny High and Novohatske. For now, the picture there is like that. Ukraine went on counterattack, expanding the gray zone, but the outcome of this Ukrainian attack is yet unknown. The presence of Ukrainian forces is there, but there is the question of whether Ukraine is successful in this direction or not. The Pidubne village is kind of big in this direction, and the main fight could go for it. Here's the interactive map, the village of Pidubne, and again after it we have the water obstacle, Mokryali river, and it creates some sort of the barrier. So I don't think that Ukraine may potentially penetrate this barrier, but there is the chance for Ukraine to push Russians even closer to Komar village. Komar that was captured before by Russians. So I say that Ukraine is pretty much serious with those attacks. Of course, operating in the kill zone is very dangerous for Ukrainian army, especially in attacks. The losses in attacking operations are higher than in defense, but this is not the major offensive, alright? So it is not what it happened in 2022 with the major Ukrainian assault operation in Kharkiv region, in Kherson region. No, it's not like that. This is the tactical success of Ukrainian army. But the general strategic move is already happening, because this war is about supplies, and Russia without supplies will little by little but continue to lose the ground. However, with drones, we shouldn't expect the major breakthrough of Ukrainian army, as well as of the Russian army. My friends, I just forgot to say it's very important to press like to this video right now while you're watching it, and also subscribe for the channel. Thank you. Let's continue with the video. So yeah, the success of Ukraine is visible here. There were a couple of the Russian attack attempts towards Dobropasove, and they definitely put their flags there. Couple of the Russian soldiers, it happened like maybe 4 days ago, they managed to get there, but the destiny of those Russian soldiers is unknown. Well, Russians presented, as they say, the evidence that definitely they put their flags there, very close to Pokrovsk. Well, Ukraine keeps as minimum forces as possible in this direction just to avoid them being hit by the drones, and Ukraine operates in attacking operations with a small attacking forces, special Ukrainian brigades, the duty of which is to perform those counterattacks. They're trained to do it. So maybe in May we're gonna see the similar statistics for the territorial gains as in April, which showed that Russia is actually losing the ground. They are attacking in some of the spots, but at the same time, netto, with the Ukrainian counterattacks, Russia gains minus ground than plus ground. Yeah, hopefully my explanation is pretty much understandable. Russia wants to gain control over Konstantinivka, and they put all of the forces there, not even in Pokrov's direction. Here is the main one, and you see what is happening. Lots of the drones, lots of the artillery, aviation gliding bomb strikes. Everything is boiling here, and the presence of the small Russian infiltration forces is already noticeable inside the settlement. However, all of the Russian attempts are finally ended with Ukrainian drone strikes. Yes, either FPVs or drone drops, but Russia wants to definitely capture Konstantinivka. It's the task number one for the Russian army. And here, if you check out the map with vectors, so this is the new assault of the Russian army somewhere near Dovha-Balka. They try to go to Ilinivka, they go 180 from the settlement itself, because all of the attempts for them to go to the settlement, they're usually been finished by Ukrainian drones. So they try to go where they see as less resistance as possible, and sometimes they move out. But the fight for Konstantinivka may go for a very long time. We'll see. Alright, the Russian military blogger Rybar, and sometimes I'm picking up his maps, he's kind of the pessimistic about Zaporizhia direction, you see, unfortunately. And he has his own channel, he's using it with VPN, and other Russians are watching him with VPN. And he says a dramatic story for the Russian army where Ukraine has a drone superiority. We know that with you, that it's like that. For each of our fighters, there are like 20, sometimes 30, and sometimes up to 70 enemy drones for each Russian soldier. Yes, it happens. Yep, of course it happens. And the fighting is moved by small groups, and therefore advancing forward is quite difficult in the current conditions. So Russians are advancing backwards. But in general, our warriors can only be wished luck. It is difficult confrontation. Good luck, good luck! Ukrainian soldiers will grant some of the last lucky photos for those Russians, usually taken by FPV. So just imagine from 20 to 70 drones per one single soldier. So it is impossible for Russia to advance, and it is understandable also that Russia doesn't have those kind of the capabilities. What they have is the Rubicon unit and some of the brigades who also fly drones, but they're way less capable compared to Rubicon. And Rubicon alone cannot operate entirely all across this very long front line. They're now concentrating their forces in Konstantinivka and Gulay-Pole. That's it. In the rest of the directions, Ukraine has a huge advantage. Here's the video of the Russian drone operator, so I'll switch off the music, and you see, this is not a Rubicon drone unit or something. And you see how they fly with the thumbs. It shouldn't be like that. You should control those sticks with two of the fingers. So of course those are the amateurs. Yeah, they may fly this drone, but they do it not properly. It means that the training was done poorly for them. This is the same guy, so you understand. The average Russian soldiers, some of the low-skilled drone operators, and Russia is now hiring to its army everyone. And if the guy is not a prisoner, not an alcoholic, he could become a drone operator. Yeah. At least he has some of the reactions, some of the skills, but Rubicon only matters. The rest drone operators, well, they could be successful, but just occasionally. Rubicon, they have better drones, they have better technology, and they're very dangerous. Andriy Bar himself is confirming the assault operation of the Ukrainian army in Dnipropetrovsk direction in multiple of the attack vectors, but at the same time he emphasized a small Russian attack attempt from Voskresenka. Well, at least this Russian military channel shows those arrows of Ukraine. It is not like the pure Russian propaganda. Yeah, of course, they over-exaggerate Russian territorial gains and the Russian success, but at the same time, at least they show Ukrainian army movement. Yes, not as on other maps, but anyways, sometimes I use Rybar to show the information of what Russians present to themselves, Russian military bloggers, to their audience.
По всем направлениям.
Putin came out with a press conference telling that the Russian forces, Russian army, is attacking on all of the directions. They have success. He even foresees the end of the war because the situation for Ukrainian army, it is close to catastrophe. Well, maybe it's even like that if he looks at Gerasimov's military map with lots of the red territories. Yeah, with already fully occupied Konstantinovka, Mala-Tokmachka, partially occupied Orikhiv, and so on. Yeah. We believe that. Alright, middle strikes. We have some of the good news that Russia continued to lose their vehicles and no any measures are being provided to secure Russian supplies. It will continue like that, it means. The losses are happening in occupied regions of Donetsk, Melitopol, Mariupol, near Berdyansk and even Crimea. Well, Russians on their channels are saying that just civilian traffic has been hit, yeah, but they're mentioning very interesting details. That Ukraine started to use mines which are being placed on the roads. It is something new. We know that Ukraine is using drones to remotely mine something on the front lines, fields, roads, but it's the first time Russians are telling that the mines are being spotted very far away from the front lines, 70 up to 100 kilometers sometimes. So Russians are filming some of the things. They're saying that those are mines. They're all across the road, they say. Well, after all, I think this is some sort of the military munition, at least it looks like that. The question is whether Ukraine drops those or they just went to the road from the local truck that was kaputted. They could be dropped by the truck itself. There are many of those here, 1, 2, 3, yeah, multiple. Yeah, this gas station is gone. It is also occupied territory, Mariupol. Yeah, the intensity of the strikes is gradually increasing. It is visible on every sort of the map, including Russian maps. Well, this is not a Russian map, but anyways, you might see all of those dots points where Russian trucks were ambushed. But the strikes on the Russian logistics are usually happening with the help of the Hornet drones. And if you wonder how they look, well, those are basically flying wings. And here is the video. So Russians shut down one of the Hornets very close to Kamaz. Yeah, it didn't detonate and just broke apart, but you may see that the video is kind of long. Longer than for just this episode. Еще один. Еще один means one more. And yeah, because of the platform restrictions, I cannot show you the kaboom as the video. I'm so sorry about it. But as the image, yeah, please. Here is the Kamaz truck and it is gone. Yeah, there is the fire. Not the cabin itself was hit, but something inside the truck itself. But of course, there is the shrapnel and the engine of the truck is somewhere close to the cabin. It's underneath. All of the systems, I guess, were cancel. This is what is happening, yeah, on those roads, on the front, not on the front lines, I'm sorry, far away from the front lines. This strike happened near Mariupol and the Russian channels as well are sharing this video, showing how effective those Ukrainian drones really are. Oh, Ukrainian K2 battalion shows how they kaput Russian supply trucks very far away. I think K2 is battalion right now, but I'm not sure. Maybe brigade. Well, here they're very successful against multiple of the Russian vehicles. Some of the images are being sent by Russians themselves before, and this is, ooh, several of the kabooms happen at the same road. Wow, nice. And yes, Russians are showing themselves that they've been devastated by K2. And the middle strikes are reaching even Russian artillery systems. So this is Grad that was hit by FPV drone. It was loaded, you may see the aftermath, so it wasn't the decoy or something. So Ukraine is using the combination of the fiber optic control drones, radio drones, middle range drones, drone drops and long range drones. Drones are absolutely everywhere. Russia lost this race, I wouldn't say completely, but Ukraine has huge, tremendous advantage over Russia this year. I honestly didn't expect it to happen. The last year I was more depressed and pessimistic about the future of the war, and I saw Russian territorial gains in Donetsk Oblast and Zaporizhia, but this year it's something different. I honestly didn't expect it to happen. But Ukrainian army managed to break through, and with the new defense minister, I guess, those changes were possible. And yeah, it is happening by the time then Donald Trump counts the direct support for Ukraine. So actually it's the perfect time for Russia. But they stuck in dinosaur tactics with those mid waves and also infiltration tactics that brings losses. They're not developing that fast as Ukraine, which is actually great. Here's the situation with the fuel supply in occupied Crimea, also in some of the southern regions, also occupied territories. Yeah, it's not good at all. Ukraine basically cuts all of the supplies. Yeah, they're occasionally happening, but with supplies you never know whether a truck makes it to Crimea or not. Alright, the last night in Volgograd, Ukraine hit one of the main refinery facilities. It is one of the biggest ones in Russia, which is great. There were numerous of the strikes. So you might see multiple of the fire origins. Something definitely went wrong, and this enterprise halted its operation. Some of the close-up photos, kind of the poor resolution, but it is understandable that something is wrong. What are you? It's like in Predator movie. What the f are you? Yeah. Well, it is a Yekaterinburg city, quite far away from Ukraine, and she went out from her cave, showing us her beautiful face and telling that they have a drone alert, as usual. Yeah, we have air sirens. She asks for the hot comments. Yeah, this is something unique, a new creature unlocked. Yeah, just for you to understand, Yekaterinburg is roughly 2,000 kilometers away from Ukrainian border. 2,000! And there are drone alerts. Right guys, I don't want to make this video really long, so stand by for one more. I'm gonna record it in several hours, so I do apologize, but I want to split topics a little bit and yeah, speak about more Putin's address, what he said about the war in Ukraine. It is kind of interesting. The Russian drone attack on Romania, because there is the new variant of the events presented to us, yeah, and we should believe in that. So, plus other news, yeah, I'm gonna keep you updated. And guys, please support my job on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below, or follow the membership of YouTube channel by pressing button join, and you are making this content possible with your kind support. And also don't forget to press like to this video and subscribe for the channel. My friends, you are awesome. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.